Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming out today. All right. Everybody's all settled in, ready to go? Yeah. Are you sure? Is everybody all settled in, ready to go? Yeah. Heck yeah. All right, guys, we're going to have a fantastic presentation today by Carol McLean. Then we're going to do our introduction and announcements, and we'll be out of here by 1 o'clock. Does that sound good?
Woohoo!
Fantastic. All right. Guys, let me introduce you to our speaker today, Miss Carol McLean. She's going to present Brave Reinvention today. After profound loss and a midlife divorce, Carol McLean made a bold decision that changed the trajectory of her life, choosing courage over certainty to set sail towards an unpredictable life at sea. Today, she challenges us to act with courage and step boldly into what comes next. Blending real-world adventure with deep spiritual insight, Carol delivers presentations that are heartfelt, energizing, and immediately actionable. Are you guys ready? Yeah. All right, let's give her a round of applause. Carol!
Ladies first, Brian says as he gestures toward the dark, threatening water. I am nervous as hell, but we are running out of time. So I take a deep breath and I slide off the pontoon. The shock of the bitterly cold ocean water seeping through the layers of my clothes gives credence to my fear. Poof! My life jacket bursts open with a vengeance. Tightens up around my cheeks. But worrying about my discomfort is the least of my problems because I never imagined I'd find myself here in the middle of the Caribbean Sea being rescued by a total stranger. Suddenly, Brian grabs me by the life jacket and drags me on my back through the water, up, down, over the ocean's 9-foot waves. With no visible stars or moon, I gaze into the black abyss of the night sky. I am terrified and exhilarated as he pulls me toward the helicopter basket. The whir of the helicopter blades is deafening. The smell of heavy metal, fuel exhaust, and salt water fills my nostrils as Brian pushes me into the cage. His voice is firm and urgent. Carol, keep your whole body inside the cage. They'll lift you up, and I'm going back for Thomas. You'll see him soon. As my cage ascends to safety of the helicopter above, a mixture of relief and adrenaline floods my system. Despite everything that has just happened, I am so grateful that Thomas and I are still alive. Quietly, I repeat the mantra I used when our boat first started to sink. Yes, we are. We are going to live to tell this tale. This affirms my belief that one can manifest anything into existence. My sailing jacket is sopping wet, and every time I move, gushes of cold water drain out. That, along with the reality of what has just happened, has me in violent shivers. The shock is starting to set in. So you might all be wondering at this point, how the hell did I get there? Well, it started with my divorce. As I approached my 30th year wedding anniversary, I realized we are all living a lot longer in our lives. And I could potentially spend another 30 years with this man. And there was no way that was going to happen. You see, I found out when we were married for about 20 years that my husband was a really bad narcissist. And I didn't know what was wrong we had so many problems in our marriage. And he would have narcissistic rages that would be awful and hateful and very demeaning. So I had made a commitment at some point that I was going to get a divorce. And when 30 years, my kids were finally almost done with college, I got a divorce. I spent $4,500, and 4 months later, I was officially divorced. And this is an example of, in my book, I talk about my life experiences, and I have pearls throughout my book, and these are some of the life pearls that I talk about and how did I get such an efficient divorce. The second thing that happened in my transformation was one day I made a mermaid costume. I had a Halloween party to go to and I didn't know what to go as, and I decided I'd go as a mermaid. And I love being creative, so I got the sewing machine out, went to Hobby Lobby, bought a bunch of seashells, etc., and I made an elaborate mermaid costume. In retrospect, that mermaid costume was a synchronicity that the universe had put in my path that was a foreshadowing of my future. The universe had a lot bigger plans and a much bigger budget associated with that mermaid costume. Because 6 months later, I met a man whose only dream was to live full-time on a sailboat. He was going to sail around the world, and when he got to the French Polynesians, he was going to stay there till he died. Well, it was a wonderful love story, and I tell the love story in the book. There's a picture of the mermaid costume in the book, too. And that's also, I have love pearls in the book, so some of the, about our relationships are the love pearls. Within 6 months, we lived 5 hours apart. Within 6 months, I invited him to come live with me in Georgia in my mountaintop home. So he came to live with me, and we started watching YouTube videos of all the cruising couples. There were several of them at the time, and I fell in love with the idea of cruising. Now, I have to tell you that I knew absolutely nothing about sailing. I knew nothing about boats. I also, which I never admitted to him, was I hate the wind. I hate when sand gets everywhere. And even though I was a certified diver, I was scared to death of the ocean, and I didn't like cold water either. But I didn't share those with him. But I realized that one of my life axioms is to make learning a lifelong goal. And I thought, how cool would it be to leave land and live off the grid and learn everything there is to know about sailing? How to raise the sails, how to trim them, how to read the weather apps, how to read the wind apps, how to make a passage route for a multi-day passage. So we did that. I got really excited, and we took a first step. You have a dream, you have to take a first step. And we went to the Annapolis Boat Show. Perhaps many of you have been there. We went to the one that was the 50th anniversary, so it was a really big one. And I walked through those gates, and I was like a little girl in a candy store, because those boats were beautiful, and they had flags lined up and down their mast. They were gorgeous and so sexy. Plus, they held the dream of a lifetime full of adventure. I was hooked. After Annapolis, we decided to go to St. Augustine, and we went to sailing school. So that was another step that we took towards our dream. We fell in love all over again, and I fell in love with sailing. I had to make sure I didn't get seasick and that I really liked it, and I fell in love with it. It was interesting when I came back to Big Canoe was my community. I was a big golfer. I was very entrenched in the golf community there. And I started talking about my dream. And you could kind of see when I talk to people, you could kind of see the gears going on in their heads like, this doesn't sound like a very good idea. It sounds really scary. Why would you want to leave the comforts of land? So they would ask me some questions, and they always kind of had negative connotations. But I believed in my dream. And that's another one of my life axioms, and that is to not take things personally. That actually helped me survive the last 10 years of my marriage, was not to engage and take things personally. So when people give you doubts about your dreams, don't listen to them. You can keep, understand their perspective, but whatever anybody says to you is relative to their perspective, not you. So when you have a dream, make sure you keep your excitement about your dream and don't let anybody squash it for you. So after St. Augustine, about a year later, I sold my mountaintop home and I bought a 45-foot catamaran, named her Sweet Caroline. And and she was 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and then she had a very tall, she had a 3rd level on top, which was where our helm station was. We had a helm bench that was 10 feet wide. We could see everything around the boat. I called it the penthouse, so that's where we sailed the boat from. So that was my transformation from being a mountain girl, golf addict, to becoming an ocean traversing mermaid. Unfortunately, it came with very little career counseling with this transition. So I'd like you to take a minute now. I passed out 2 index cards. This is your little work. And I'd like you to write down a dream that you have. One dream that you have. It could be a professional dream. It could be a personal dream. It could be a dream that you're already working on. It could be very small. It could be a big dream. It might be something like, I want to learn to play guitar. I want to become an artist. I want to get this promotion with my job. So write down a dream that you have. And then the second question is, write down a step that you would take or could take or are already taking to make this dream come true. So write down a dream and then write down a step that you can take to make it come true. Okay, so hang on to those cards, those dreams, and we're going to talk about those a little bit later. So can I see a show of hands of how many people have heard of the book called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne? Great. How many people have you read it? All right, awesome. We're all on the same wavelength there. Or perhaps you've heard of the law of attraction or the law of abundance.
Woohoo!
I lump all of those together under the word of manifesting, and my book is Sailing Sweet Carolina, Courageous Tale of Life, Love, and Manifesting Dreams. Manifesting is something that I have studied for decades. I started studying thought leaders in this area in my 20s. So it's something that I have spent a lot of time with, and I have been very successful and fortunate to have manifested many, many things in my life, from major life chapters to all kinds of small little things like these earrings. I'll give you a quick example. When I was in my 30s, I was trying to get pregnant, and I was listening to Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins at the time, his cassette program called Personal Power. I'm sure many of you probably heard of Tony Robbins. It was a cassette program. This was before CDs were even invented, and there was no such thing as audio books. And he told me to write down what my plan was that I wanted in the next chapter of my life. So I had 2 things. It was an easy answer. I wanted to get pregnant, and I wanted to move to Dallas. I was living in Colorado at the time, and both my husband and I had family in Dallas. But this was a tall order because my husband and I had been practicing for 2 years, and it wasn't working. We were not pregnant yet. And the move to Dallas, I was working for Texas Instruments, so it would be easy for me to transfer, but my husband did not have any ties or anything to Dallas, so that was going to be a little bit harder as well. So I decided, since we weren't being successful getting pregnant, that I was going to go try in vitro fertilization. Now IVF was very new technology back then. This was the early 90s, and there was probably a 15% chance that the IVF was going to work. And then on the move to Dallas, I was able to get my husband in touch with the president of the software division that I was part of to get an interview. So we went down the IVF route, did all the shots, all the hormones, all that stuff. He got the interview, and then 2 weeks later, I took a pregnancy test. I was not pregnant, came out negative. But my doctor had told me, he said, wait, don't take it too seriously, wait till you get a call from our lab, because sometimes it's different. So I was like, okay, thinking. At 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, the phone rings, and it's the doctor's office. The nurse says, this is Dr. Schoolcraft's office. Are you ready to hear your pregnancy results? And I was like, well, it depends. I already took a home pregnancy test and it was negative. It depends on the results. She said, well, congratulations, you're pregnant. So I was so excited, I'm jumping up and down, tears of joy. It wasn't even an hour later, and the phone rings again, and my husband gets a call from the president of the software division, offering him the vice president of marketing job. So wham, bam, we were pregnant, and we had an all expense paid move to Dallas. So that was one great example of architecting that. Another thing I want to talk a little bit about is positive versus negative energy. And this became very apparent when we were on the boat. As you can probably tell, you know, we have glass half full, glass half empty, and then I'm the cup overflowing kind of person. And I didn't realize that my partner was pretty much the opposite of that until we got on the boat. When you live on a boat, there are a lot of highs and lows. The highs were exhilarating of being on a full-time adventure and living in these idyllic, you know, anchorages, and it was just beautiful. 360-degree view of sunsets and moonrises and all of that stuff. But on the other flip side of that, there were so many boat problems. Every boat has problems, and we knew that, but we felt like our boat had more than its fair share. Well, one of the things I want to bring up, a guy, and I know a couple of you know him, Mike Dooley. Mike Dooley is one of the thought leaders that was featured in the book The Secrets. And he's also a New York Times best-selling author. And he also gave me a quote on the back of my book, which I am so excited that I was able to get that. But his main premise is, your thoughts become things, think the good ones. Your thoughts become things, think the good ones. And the second premise of that he added later was, and your words give them wings. So your thoughts become things, think the good ones, and your words give them wings. So when we were on the boat, anytime a problem would happen, Thomas would go off the rails. He's Italian, so he would go off the rails and spew this rant of 4-letter words, profanity like you've never heard it. I called it creative cursing. He was very, very good at it. And he would always go down the rabbit hole of imagining the worst possible scenario of what this problem was going to cause us to do and how hard it was going to be to fix it. Here I am on the other hand, trying to say, you know, it's all going to be okay, you know, trying to think of something that would be an easier fix, and knowing that, because we've had a lot of problems, that at the end of the day, they're all going to get fixed sooner or later, or we'll find a workaround. So that was really a bit of a challenge for us. And he always wanted to sell the boat. That was the worst part, was we would have these happy hours, and he would always tell me, tomorrow we're going to go, we're leaving, and we're going back, and we're going to sell the boat. So I had a lot of sleepless, cry myself to sleep nights associated with all that, because I always wanted to keep going. But we eventually got through. We had fortitude and perseverance to be able to continue forward. So this brings us back to the point of, how the hell did we get in the middle of the ocean? Well, it was April 19th, 2022, and we were on a passage from Turks and Caicos. We were going to Puerto Rico, and it's a 3.5-day journey. We had been underway for 24 hours, and sometimes the weather apps are not exactly accurate. And this time the weather apps got it horribly wrong. We were supposed to have 3 to 6 foot waves and have the wind coming off of our beam, which means you can sail quite well. Well, it turns out that the weather was, the wind and the waves were beating right into our face, and we had 9 foot waves. So when you're on a passage like that, your boat's going up over the wave and it's slamming down, up over the wave and slamming down. So it was bam, bam, slam, slam, and the boat has a lot of wood in it. You hear all the boat creaking, and you feel like your boat is literally going to fall apart. It won't, but after 24 hours, it totally grates on your nerves. So we decided that we were going to divert our passage, and we were going to go to the Dominican Republic instead, and we decided, and that would turn the angle of the boat as well. So all of a sudden we raised the sails, we were sailing at top speed, and the wind was coming, the waves were coming on the side of our boat, which was a lot more tolerable than hitting you in the face. So all of a sudden we were great. And my partner, when we have a passage like that, he will not sleep for 24 hours or even longer. But things had calmed down, so he went downstairs and fell into a fast sleep. So I'm upstairs, everything's going well, looking around. It was a very overcast day, there was no sunshine. Like I said, big waves, couldn't really see anything. All of a sudden, crash! The boat stopped dead in the water. We're doing 10 knots. I go flying off the helm station. All the stuff that's on my big 10-foot bench goes flying with me. I pick myself up, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I'm okay. Didn't break anything. But the gut feeling that I had was I knew that was not going to be the same case with our boat. Meanwhile, Thomas is downstairs. He is catapulted off the bed. We have a big drawer underneath the bed. The drawer goes flying out underneath him, and all the bedside items are gone by him. He said it was like being in one of the Matrix movies. So he thinks he's having a dream. It takes him a few seconds to realize that he's wide awake for this nightmare. I'm upstairs and I hear the thunder of his footsteps coming up to the helm station. What the hell just happened? Baby, I have no idea. There was nothing on the chart plotter. I didn't see anything. All of a sudden we stopped dead. And every wave, Sweet Caroline's coming up and it's slamming down on whatever it is we hit with this horrible crunching sound.
Iceberg?
In retrospect, we think it was a container. But, so it was just so awful, so horrible. He's like, honey, I'm gonna try and get the boat off the obstruction. You go down and get ready in case we need to abandon the boat. So I go downstairs and I go into the salon. It is a shocking sight because everything that was on our counters has now all over the floor, over the table. It's a mess. And I start to panic. What the hell am I supposed to do? Are we gonna really abandon this boat, our home? But all of a sudden, you know, the adrenaline has kicked in. And I'm like, I've got this. I need water and food. So first thing I do is I grab every vessel that I can with a lid, fill it with water, put it in a big bag, and then I started working on food. I was well provisioned. That's another thing you learn is how to provision. We were going away from the US for like a year. So I had Costco-sized containers of nuts. I had big jars of peanut butter, creamy for me, crunchy for him. I had crackers, I had cans of chicken, baked beans, tortillas. I grabbed all that food and I thought, okay, I think I've got at least 2 weeks of food here, and even more if we ration it. Meanwhile, Thomas is upstairs in the helm station, trying to get the boat off the obstruction. He's dropped the sails and he's yelling, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Sweet Caroline, over. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is Sweet Caroline, over. No answer. wasn't a surprise because we hadn't seen another boat or a plane the entire time we were out there. So we were left to ourselves at that point. He comes down as I'm packing up. He comes down and he rips open the floorboards. The obstruction was on our starboard side, and we had the whole hauler as their bathroom. Rips up the floorboards to see if we're taking on water. And he comes back up and he says, honey, I can't seem to get her off, but the good news is we're not taking on water. And he starts to go back up, and I stop and I say, Thomas, I said, we are going to live to tell this tale. I'm telling you right now that we are going to live to tell this tale. He says, looks me in the eye, he says, you're right, baby. And runs back up. He says, don't forget the flares of the headlamps. So that was my consummate manifestation, because you know, I know that your thoughts become things and your words give them wings. So I made that manifestation that we were going to survive this accident. It wasn't long after that, a few minutes, where Thomas gets the boat off the obstruction, and then he watches as parts of the boat starts to float away, and I'm downstairs and water is gushing into our bedroom. He comes down, he says, baby, you got about 3 minutes. I'm gonna get the life raft and the dinghy down, and you get all the stuff out in the cockpit, we're gonna throw it in, we have to abandon the boat. So, I did. We ended up, it was only 20 minutes from the time we hit the obstruction to the time that we were in our dinghy, watching our beloved home and the life that we had so courageously built sink into the ocean. Needless to say, it was a horrible recovery from that traumatic experience. You can find out more about the experience in the book. But afterwards, I decided that, well, I made a commitment that we were going to live to tell this tale. So I needed to write a book. And people told me they loved the way my stories on Facebook and whatnot. They always would say, you need to write a book. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to write a book now. So I spent 3 years writing the book and doing having a lot of professional help editing and designing it and whatnot. So that was another dream of mine that came true. So now I'd like to take a minute and I'd like to ask for you guys to share what some of your dreams are. What does 10 mean? 10 more to go?
There's more to go.
All right, let's go. Remember, your words give them wings.
My dream is to be a snowbird. I love it up here. It's like home, but I also have family in Florida.
Nice. So what's the step you're taking?
One of them is budget carefully.
That's a good way to start. Who else?
I can go. So mine's sailing related, which is funny because I'm maybe career transitioning back into sailing instruction. So my dream I wrote is help people learn about sailing in their own boat at their own pace. So everybody learns. Some people learn pretty fast, other people want a little more time to let information soak in and register. And I said a step would be make a website.
Ah, there you go. There you go. Join some Facebook groups.
Or Facebook. I don't
Yeah.
like Facebook.
Oh, well, there's a lot of cruising Facebook
I bet.
groups out there. Yeah, yeah. Who else?
I'll go. So build a global community of wildly whole women rooted in inner authority, self-leadership, and embodied power.
Wow.
And the step I'm taking this month is launching the Wildly Whole Woman Collective, a membership.
I love
So,
it. Wildly
I'm
whole
starting.
women. I love
Very
that.
cool.
I'm going to be a member.
Cool.
That's awesome. Who else?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
So one of my long-term dreams was, go seeing the pyramids in Egypt. So I've taken steps. I've booked my flights and paid for them.
Nice. When is this happening?
This is happening. I'm going in October.
Oh, nice.
Then the next step was I booked most of my hotel. I'm not sure if I'm gonna book the remaining one night before I go or while I'm there. So that's as far as I've gotten. Left to do is to pick out what excursions I wanna
Oh,
go.
fun.
But, so So
That's
it's
awesome.
it was on my bucket list, one of the items on my bucket list.
That's great. Congrats.
I'll go. Ron took the words out of my mouth. That's also my dream vacation, to go to Egypt. I mean, I have traveled, but you mentioned the pyramids, and ever since I remember seeing an algebra book that had the Sphinx and the pyramid on it when I was about 5, and I said, I want to see those. So, steps that I've taken so far, it's, I need to enroll my wife into the ideas, and she said yes. So, we're just figuring out, okay, what are the safety concerns, what do we need to be prepared for? Because that's unfortunately not a stable area of the world,
Great.
so we're navigating that right now.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, so we're at least taking some forward steps towards it. So, Ron, I'll have to take some pointers from you when you go.
There you go.
You can relate to this. I actually want to get good at golf. I don't have a specific score in mind. I've always been a hacker. I play maybe 2 times a year, every year with some buddies. And I was always the worst golfer in the group because I'd always try to kill the ball. So what the steps that I'm taking, first and foremost, is now my wife is interested.
Oh, nice.
To the point where now she's like, oh, I saw this new grill on Instagram. You got to see this. So we're actually playing together like nearly every week, and we're putting a golf simulator in the basement.
Oh, nice.
We're about 80% done with that.
I want to get to know you guys.
Yeah. All of a sudden, we're getting a lot of new friends in our neighborhood that want to hang out with us. I don't understand. They all seem to want to play
Did
golf.
you put a bar next to that simulator?
Yeah, we did actually. Right behind it.
That's great.
Yeah. So, but it to Pablo's point, it's enrolling your partner in the whole thing, because you're not going to do it by yourself, and unless you have a situation where you are by yourself and you want to do it solo. But it wasn't until she got into golf that I was able to really spend more time on it. And now we're doing it. It's something we can do together.
And it's great to travel.
Yeah.
Like the, what's it called? The Robert Trent Jones Trail in Alabama, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's one of my goals, is I wanna go do that whole trail. I've done like 2 of the courses there.
Cool.
But that's wonderful, yeah. And then, you get your wife involved in, all the clothes and all the golf clothes and all that stuff. It's
Oh,
really
she's
fun. Like
full
my
bore.
best part of my wardrobe is my golf clothes.
Talk about manifestation. She yeah. Take it till you make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's totally
She's
true.
all about it.
Golf. Yeah, you gotta look the part.
She looks
first.
like a golfer.
That's awesome. Anybody else?
I gotta work on my, people have told me that my dreamer is broken.
Dreamer's broken.
That's what they tell me, because I don't dream big enough.
Well, it doesn't matter whether they're big or small, but it's always great to have a dream and to be working towards it. Oh yes, Lee.
Maybe a smaller one. Being sailors, Margaret and I sail with other people. We don't own a boat, and our skippers are good people, but one guy. Others are unreliable in terms of getting on the boat, so we're just not getting out. So our latest plan is, we have friends who are gonna join Eastport Yacht Club, or we heck out, and they have owned boats. They're terrific sailors, so we're gonna get out on club boats with them,
Oh, fun.
just regularly.
That's
It's a
awesome.
sure way to do it for sure.
Ron?
Every 12 years in my adult life, things have changed. And it was never scheduled that way, but I look back, and I started networking for my daughter's business in 2014. I just did the arithmetic in this 12 years. And I have a gut feeling I'm going somewhere. I don't know where. So I'm moving my feet here, I'm moving my feet here, I'm going somewhere, but that I do know. I'm signing up for classes, I'm taking my first cruise this August. First cruise, I have been afraid. No, I'm going to go. I'm learning more. As I push to learn more, I'm going somewhere else. My daughter doesn't need me for a business anymore, so some of the new adventures.
There you go. And just be open to watching or finding the signs. You know, the universe will give you signs. Something will come into your path, and you just follow it. Because one thing about manifesting is you don't have to know the hows. You just need to take little steps. And you need to imagine what it's gonna be like when it comes true. You need to feel all those emotions regularly. This is very important. You just can't have a dream. You have to feel the emotions of how you're gonna feel when it comes true. And you have to believe it. You can't have limiting beliefs into your vision and doubts. You have to believe it's gonna come true. And the universe will worry about the hows so long as you take steps in the direction of your dream. And then you also have to have gratitude. Gratitude for what you already have, and gratitude for what you are becoming, when your dream is realized, that you're already in the direction of your dream. Well, and I'd like to share just one little last thing, which is I've had another dream of mine that I've had. This is the longest dream I've had that I didn't think was ever going to come true, but it came true today. Because I have always wanted to be a motivational speaker. And you guys are my first live audience. I wish you luck with all of your dreams, and I thank you for being part of my journey.
Very awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, guys. You guys ready to get going?
What? 15 more minutes. Oh, okay.
Let's go ahead and get started. Does anybody have an announcement for the group?